I'm Asia Grace with the New York Post, here with the undeniable, the unyielding, and the uncensored Piers Morgan, speaking with him about some of his biggest moments of the past year, one of which being the shocking revelation that it was allegedly King Charles and Kate Middleton who raised concerns about Prince Archie's skin color. Piers, what an honor.
Lovely to see you. I love the phrase undeniable.
Undeniable.
I mean, I do try and deny I'm me quite a lot, actually.
But you can't. You are unapologetically Piers, and we love that about you.
Thank you.
So let's just zoom right into that moment where you kind of shared with the world that it was alleged that King Charles and Kate Middleton were the two that were concerned about Prince Archie's hue. I mean, what was that like for you?
Well, it was a big decision that we took as a team on the show. But ultimately, I took it because we had this bizarre situation where Meghan and Harry had gone on Oprah Winfrey, obviously several years before, made a series of unsubstantiated allegations, including this incendiary claim that members of the royal family had expressed concern about Archie's potential skin colour, because, of course, Thomas Markle is white and Doria, Meghan's mother, is black. So this was the suggestion that they were concerned, with the idea being it was a kind of negative intonation. So this caused a huge 2-year cycle of headlines against the royal family. They were a bunch of racists. And I didn't believe it. Knowing the royal family as I do, I just did not believe it. And there were lots of rumours about who they were supposedly the royals who had said this. And then Omid Scobie, this little weasel who keeps pumping out pro-Sussex stuff at the expense of the royal family, decided to publish a book. And then, oddly, in the Netherlands, a country not that far from England in Europe, this story appeared with the names, but that was the only part of the world where there was an addition to the book with the names in. The British version had no names. And I thought it was ridiculous that Dutch people in the Netherlands were able to go to a bookstore, pick up this book, buy it, and find out the names of the royal family in my country. And discover who was supposedly the racist. And when I found out who the names were, I laughed out loud.
Really?
The idea that King Charles, after all his work for the Commonwealth, never mind anything else, running one of the most multicultural, tolerant countries on planet Earth by any metric, the United Kingdom, or that Kate Middleton, the Duchess of Cambridge, the idea that she, or the Princess of Wales as she now is, the idea that she would have been racist, it was so ludicrous, so offensive, so, in my view, untrue, that I decided, right, we're going to have this in public, this conversation. I'm going to name them, and we're going to see what happens. And, of course, as I predicted to my team, who were not all as gung-ho as I was about it,
I'm sure.
It got huge attention, and it disappeared as fast as it started once people knew who they were, because nobody else believed it either.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that they could have at least asked, wondered out loud what the color of the baby might have been?
Possibly.
Without racist undertones?
Possibly. Listen, you're a black woman, right? I know many people from a mixed race parenting scenario, and it's completely normal, as it would be, for example, I think people in the royal family expressed in a conversation, would the baby have red hair? Which I think Archie does, like his dad, right? I don't think it's remotely racist, unless it's expressed in a tone, as was inferred on Oprah, in a negative context, i.e. the darker the child's skin colour, the more of a problem it would be. I do not believe that happened. And I think that was deliberately spun that way by Meghan Markle, with Harry's help. They couldn't even decide on Oprah what year this conversation was supposed to have had. She said it was, I think, when she was pregnant. He said it was before they got engaged. Ridiculous. So, very notably, since I named them, not a word of denial from Meghan and Harry, or any evidence that this was actually ever what was done in a negative context. We can read a lot into that.
I mean, it's incredible because, I would love to see an interview between you and Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. If that were to happen, what would that even look like?
Well, I knew her before she met Harry, of course, quite well. And I would love to ask some supplementary questions. My issue with the Oprah interview was that they were allowed to just say all this stuff, and then Oprah went, what? Repeatedly, but didn't actually say, hang on, have you got any evidence for this? Where's the evidence? You are launching an unprecedented attack on the British royal family. You're calling them a bunch of callous racists, and you've got no evidence, and there'll still be no evidence. And when Harry's book came out, Spare, not a word about the racism in the book. Not one word. like it had never happened. Then he comes out promoting the book and says, we never meant to say the royal family were racist. It was the media, which is his go-to position on all of it. It wasn't the media. You called them racist on global television. And now you're backtracking. And now, unfortunately, the Queen, who had to endure all this in the last period of her life, is dead. Yeah. And only this week, what do we discover? That their other claim that they had the Queen's permission to call their other child Lilibet, which was the private nickname of the Queen, used only by a tiny number of her very close relatives, including her late great husband, Prince Philip, that they'd given them permission to do that, turned out not to be true. The Queen was deeply angry and upset that they just did that without her permission. Wow. So another lie. So I call her the Princess Pinocchio, Meghan, and I think he's even worse. And I'm afraid the damage they've been doing to the royal family is repulsive in my view.
You know what, Piers? I think what people can 100% respect about you is that you are unapologetically Piers, you know. And I
do apologise if I'm proven to be wrong.
Okay.
But I lost my job, remember, on Good Morning Britain because I refused to believe what they were saying about the racism and about the suicidal thoughts where Meghan claimed she'd gone to a senior member of Buckingham Palace staff and said she was feeling suicidal and was told she couldn't get any help. I just thought that was nonsense. Again, that doesn't appear in his book. That's also disappeared. Right. And yet it was such a serious allegation. The idea that Buckingham Palace would tell a young woman having suicidal thoughts, you're not allowed to get help because it might damage the brand, just didn't happen.
So when you, one of these days, sit down with them, will there be a conversation about, are you going to be fact-checking and you know, trying to get the truth out of them? Will you guys come to a meeting of the minds? And
I would just ask them one question. If you hate the royal family that much and you hate the monarchy that much and you felt so trapped by the institution, why do you insist on keeping your royal titles? And why do you insist on using them for business? And why do you insist on your children having the royal titles? Why sentence them to the terrible dungeon that you found yourselves in at the behest of the royal family? So much hypocrisy. They've lined their pockets with hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, selling every detail of the private lives of themselves and their families, trashing their families left, right and centre for vast amounts of money, but kept their royal titles because without those, they don't make any money. I think it's rank hypocrisy. My first question, why are you keeping the titles? If you really want to go off and make money out of being Meghan and Harry, good luck to you. But see how you get on when you're not royals anymore.
That would be a very interesting conversation. I'm sure that the world, including myself, would be tuning in for that. I mean, that would be something. You get your popcorn. You know, you want to see that.
I get my own popcorn. I'd share it with them. I'm a gentleman.
Well, that's kind of you.
Yeah.